Hi, this is Wesley Lawton, the therapist at Growing Forward Counseling, formerly All Things Grow Counseling. I've had a name change. And so Growing Forward Counseling is the new name, got a new logo. Basically, everything else is the same, phone number's the same. My email address is different. It is now wes@gfcounseling.com. And also, my website is different. That reminds me, my URL is now gfcounseling.com for Growing Forward Counseling. Uh, and today I wanted to make a video about a topic that a lot of people get uncomfortable talking about. Certainly, a lot of therapists get uncomfortable talking about. It's not really my favorite topic, and that is money and the fact that I, like all therapists, have bills to pay, and this is my full time job, and I need to get paid for the work that I do. And again, that's true for all mental health professionals in some way or another. They have to put food on the table and all of that. But there is one area that I get kind of excited to talk about, and that's going to be the focus of this video. That is why I don't accept insurance, at least not directly. There are ways I can work with insurance companies, and I'll get to that toward the end of the video. But most of my clients are private pay. And there are some good reasons for that, reasons that benefit me as a practitioner, but also directly and indirectly, reasons that benefit the clients that I serve as well. And so I actually like talking with people about this and helping them understand the reasons why I stand by this model. And an increasing number of therapists are standing by this model of getting paid directly by their clients. Excuse me, I got something in my throat here. So I wrote, even before I opened my doors to clients, I wrote a sort of summary of what I'm going to talk about in this video. And I'll link to that in the description below if you want to just kind of read a summary. But I wanted to make a video giving some additional perspective, and so that you can really hear me talking about this and understand that I believe in it very fully. And basically, I want you to walk away from this video preferring to work with a therapist who doesn't accept insurance. Now, whether or not that is the best fit for you watching this video, I can't say. It's not the best fit for everyone in the world, but I think that most people, the vast majority of people, should at least prefer to work with a therapist who doesn't accept insurance. If that is, you know, if that is within reach for them at all, if that is something that they can make work, that really should be the preference. I'm saying that confidently, and I'm going to get into why right now. So, really, what it comes down to is the fact that we all are incentivized in our work by where our payment comes from. I think we have to be honest about that. I mean, if you are an employee somewhere and your boss asks you to do something that you don't want to do, you're probably going to end up doing that thing so that you can continue to get paid. And that's a very basic way of putting it, but that's the way it is really for all of us. And so, uh, if I accept insurance and get paid by those insurance companies, I am incentivized to do what they want me to do. And if I get paid by my clients directly, I am incentivized to do what is in their best interest and what they and I decide together is going to work best to help them meet their goals. Okay, so that is one major reason and kind of the underlying reason why I don't accept insurance, but there are some additional ones, some that don't relate to that directly. But I do want you to know that I think that um, basically, to summarize, uh, when a therapist accepts payment from insurance, they have to go one of two routes. There is this concept that is called evidence-based practice, and it sounds very important and very airtight. But what it basically means is practice that meets certain criteria in research to show not only that it works, but why it works. And every single step to understand, hey, in this situation, it works. In this situation, it doesn't work as well, works better with these populations and these factors. And to basically be able to put it in a lab and also in the real world and to show, again, I really want to highlight not just that it works, but why it works. There are only certain, really a minority, a small minority of therapeutic approaches that meet those kinds of standards of being an evidence based practice in terms of showing why it is effective and having a theory that is measurable and provable. And those types of approaches are not the best fit for every single client in every single situation. That's just the reality of it. Research shows Mental health research shows one thing the most consistently, and that is that therapy is effective, which is great. Like to be able to say that. The thing that it shows second most consistently is that all therapy approaches for most problems that clients come in with work about as well as one another on average. When you're looking at the hundreds of thousands or millions and millions of people who have been researched in the field of mental health research, we see that if you kind of put them all together, you'll see that uh, therapy approaches work pretty much about as well from one therapist and client to another for most problems. Okay, so hopefully I didn't overemphasize that or say it too many times, but yeah, I think that that's pretty interesting. There are some factors that are underlying that play a big role in whether or not therapy is effective. That is empathy, unconditional positive regard, and I always forget the actual word for the other one. It's basically authenticity. It's congruence. That's the word that always slips my mind. Um, those are the ways that Carl Rogers, who came up with those core conditions, put it. But those are really the three factors that are the biggest determiners of whether or not therapy will be effective, in addition to some other stuff. That's not what this video is about. But the type of therapeutic approach um, is not like this one works well and this one does not. Whereas if with like a medical doctor, if you have a problem, um, some types of medicine are going to work better than other types of medicine for that problem for almost everybody with a high reliability, high consistency. That's not the way that it is. With mental health, therapy is a soft science, not a hard science. So we can study it and understand that things work. But the idea of having only being able to practice therapy that is totally measurable and provable and shown, to meet those kinds of criteria to be considered evidence-based practice is really not the best way to help clients. At least that's not what I believe. That's not what a lot of therapists believe, if we're being honest. And I can be honest because I don't accept insurance, and so I can tell it like it is. Um, and so I tailor, like many therapists, I tailor the way that I work with them to their personality and their needs and what they are open to. If they don't think that something's going to be effective, there's a good chance that it's not going to be effective for them. That's just the reality of it. We know that from research, that there is that being open to something working does play a major role in whether or not it actually works. It's not the only role by a long shot, but it's a significant role. So if I'm working with a client and I'm trying a type of approach, explaining it in a certain way, giving them certain kinds of actions to take, and they're like, I just don't see how this connects, or this just isn't for me. Well, I can adjust my approach. And based on my relationship with that client, I can uh, do something different. I can explain it in a different way. I can switch to a whole different mode of practicing with them. So I know I'm being vague here. That's because there are so many different ways that this can work out. But the point is that I can be flexible to my client's needs. Whereas if I'm only doing evidence based practice, then I really can't. I have to do what the insurance companies believe will work best for most or all clients. So, when a therapist accepts insurance, they have to either only do evidence-based practice or they have to practice in a way that they believe, as I try to practice, will actually benefit their clients the best, the most. And in some cases, that is evidence-based practice, by the way. I'm just saying it's not all or even most of the time necessarily. So they have to either do only evidence-based or uh, do what they think is best and then sort of be dishonest and skew um, what they did in their notes that they are submitting to the insurance company, basically kind of translating, here's what I actually did. Here's what the insurance company wants to hear. How can I word what I did in such a way that they will pay me for my services? So that's kind of an awkward position to be in. And I don't want to be in that position. I want to be honest with myself as well as with the people who are paying me and my clients who happen to be the same person. So it's another major reason why I don't accept insurance. Um, so another big reason is that taking insurance requires me to give a mental health diagnosis, to diagnose some kind of mental health disorder. And I don't do that with most of my clients. I do that with some clients. Uh, Basically, again, I'm working to benefit them. And so if I think it will benefit them to get a diagnosis, then I will give that to them and I will help them understand what that is and what it means and how we can kind of address that in therapy. For some people, that's very validating and helpful in a practical way. Uh, for a lot of people, I would say at least half of people, if not most, um, a diagnosis is just kind of a means to an end of getting your insurance to pay for therapy. And it comes sometimes with stigmas from loved ones or from other people who you interact with in your daily life. And that is unfortunate. That is not right, but it is something that happens. Sometimes people can take a diagnosis, a mental health diagnosis, and think that they are in some way sick, that there's something kind of broken in their brain. And that is not really the case. It's not sickness in the same way that, again, sickness works in like the actual medical world. Um, Now, sometimes there can be neurochemical imbalances. Sometimes I think there are some genetic factors. But the point is that addressing it as if it's an illness is really not the most accurate or effective way to think about mental health diagnoses. And so, um, this is really why I don't diagnose most of my clients. Is I like to keep things simple and straightforward. And I feel that I and they are able to kind of able to treat one another as fellow human beings with a past and an environment and all the kinds of things that actually affect our mental health uh, by foregoing diagnoses with most clients. And I have that option because I don't accept insurance. If you are seeing somebody who takes your insurance, then they are giving you a diagnosis. Uh, all right, next. And by the way, I really don't want to make out like getting a mental health diagnosis is an inherently bad thing. It's just not what's in the best interest of every client. That's all. Okay. Um, Getting paid by you is the only way that I can provide therapy that is fully private and confidential. There are a couple exceptions, like if I think that you're going to kill yourself or someone else, then ultimately I need to keep everyone safe. And so I might need to break confidentiality for that. That's all informed consent. That is universal. But insurance companies, when they're paying for therapy, they can demand to see notes for that therapy at any time. And so the people who work for that insurance company are seeing what we're doing in therapy. They're reading what you said. They're reading the kinds of things that you're talking about, the problems that you're having, all the stuff that I need to put in my notes for my own memory, but also for the insurance companies to know what I'm doing. Basically, if someone accepts insurance, they're saying, "Hey, here's what we did. Will you please pay me for it?" Um, and so people need to read through those notes. And some people are uncomfortable with that. I'm a pretty privacy conscious person in most areas of my life. And so I can relate to that. Sometimes I like to keep my own life, um, the details of my life, certainly of my mental health. I like to be in control and to know who knows about those things. And when you work with a therapist who accepts insurance, that's not the case. You don't know who works at those insurance companies. And so does anything bad actually materialize from that very often? No, it doesn't. I wouldn't say so. Um, the worst that can happen is maybe they're not uh, doing their job ethically. They're going out and gossiping about something they read or whatever. I don't think that's common. I don't think that practically that anything bad is going to happen to the vast majority of people in this area. But it's kind of the principle of it. Like I just don't like it. Um, some people have the approach to privacy like, hey, I have nothing to hide, therefore I don't need to protect my privacy. I don't see it that way. I like knowing who knows the details of my location, for example, when it comes to all the things that I accept on my phone. Um, so, yeah, that's one more reason. Another one is that when that you and I, my client and I, will decide together how many sessions we will have and how frequent those sessions will be. If I get paid by insurance companies, then those insurance companies will only allow a certain number of sessions that they're going to pay for and will also say how frequently we can meet. And I have to sort of convince them otherwise. If I think that you need more sessions or if I think that we need to meet more regularly, I have to go to them and make a whole case about why that is. And then they can choose to accept or deny that request. Okay. But if it's you and me, If we want to meet twice a week, we can do that. If we want to meet 4 times a year, we can do that. I don't typically do that with clients, but we can decide to do that together. It's up to you and me. Hey, we can do that. We can decide to have a longer session or a shorter session. We can You can meet with me for many years, or you can meet with me a handful of times. Whatever you think is best. Obviously, insurance companies aren't going to force you to continue going to therapy, but you get the idea. It's up to you and me. We keep things simple. Okay. Um, as if I, as your therapist, were beholden to insurance companies, I would need to document and report on our sessions in very specific ways and would be under the constant threat of being audited and having to pay the insurance companies back for not dotting an I or crossing a T. Not taking insurance alleviates that stress. So yeah, basically, insurance companies are looking not only for me to sort of practice evidence-based practice, but they're looking for me to document in very specific ways. And I am a good documenter. I'm not going to show you my notes, but you can take my word for it that if you saw them, you would say, "Oh, hey, he actually is pretty thorough and captures all the important stuff." And if my notes were subpoenaed in court or something like that, and I had to bring them to a court situation, then they would hold up in court. So I'm pretty confident in that. But um, insurance companies, sometimes they like you to do it in a particular format. They like you to use certain words and avoid other words. And it can feel kind of arbitrary sometimes. I'm sure that they have their reasons, but when it comes to actual practical mental health practice, it can feel kind of arbitrary. And I don't want to live my life under the threat, and they audit. So they come in and say, hey, show me your notes from this date to that date, or for clients with this last name to that last name. They do that pretty frequently, and I don't want to live my life like worrying about the next audit. And not only am I doing a good job documenting, not only am I practicing in the way that insurance companies want me to practice and that they believe is going to help the clients who they've never met, but also did I word things just right and do it in just the right format? If not, they can say that I need to pay them back for those sessions. That's not good for me. That's not good for my mental health. That's not good for me being at my best for my clients. And so I like to, again, keep things simple and make the notes, yeah, an important thing, but not the main thing, not like the thing that determines whether or not I can get paid for my work. That's insane to me. Okay. Next, setting my private pay rate at my own discretion allows me to have balance in my own life and be at my very best when I'm doing my work. So this sounds like something that is just good for me, but and sure, it is good for me. Of course, why would you work in a way? If you're running your own business, why would you work in a way that is not good for you? But it does benefit clients as well, because when my clients are coming to see me, they're working with a therapist who has good boundaries, who is not burned out, who has balance in his life, who is not um, worried about all the kinds of things that I'm describing in this video under that stress. And I get to say, hey, here's what is a fair rate for the work that I provide. Here's what is a rate that I believe my client should pay that is kind of the right balance of affordable for them and meets my financial needs and, you know, uh, addresses the value of what I'm providing and all those sorts of things that any business owner in any industry has to decide. Um, I get to decide that and structure my life accordingly. Um, and I love my work, but I don't live to work, right? I do, I believe, very good work and I love helping people. I love changing lives, but I have a whole life outside of this too. And I need to have balance in my life. And, being the one in charge of all this financial stuff allows me to do that a lot more easily than if I had to sort of essentially work for the insurance companies and get paid what they think I should get paid. You may not know this. Some insurance companies will pay $125 for a session. Other insurance companies will pay $65 for the same session, same therapist, same client, other than the fact that they have different insurance, and same work, same problem. That's like almost double. Some insurance companies say your work is worth this much, others say your work is worth this much. And I just have to sort of say, like, yes, sir, thank you, sir, if I'm accepting that insurance. That's why a lot of insurance companies will only accept, or sorry, a lot of therapists will only accept like Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, for example, in Michigan, of course, because they're one of the higher paying ones. That's why a lot of therapists avoid taking Medicaid because they pay a lot less. And usually, when a therapist accepts Medicaid, it's just so that they can provide services to the kind, to people who um, need to have Medicaid, who are lower income or who are in other kinds of circumstances where they can't have other kinds of insurance. And that's a great thing to do. There are other ways of doing good in the world. There are other ways of providing my services to clients in ways that they can afford. So I don't do that. Many other therapists don't do that. And so those are some reasons. Now, um, let me tell you how I can work with insurance companies. This is something that I've been putting more emphasis on recently, and that is um, if you have an insurance company or an insurance provider that provides what's called out of network benefits for mental health, then they can reimburse you for services. So basically, you pay upfront, just like any private pay client would do. And then I could send you what's called a super bill. It's basically an invoice for that therapy. You could file that with your insurance company, and then they would, if they provide out of network benefits, they would reimburse you for those services, at least for part of it. Again, they're deciding how much they think therapy is worth. And so if they think that it's worth half of what I charge, then they're only going to pay you half of what you pay for therapy. Now, that's still significant. That still can make therapy more affordable for people. So I want you to know that that is available. There's another option as well with this that I'm pretty excited about. I just learned about it like a few weeks ago or a month ago. And that's this company called Mentaya. And they don't pay me. This is not a sponsored video. But basically, I can give them the super bill and they will file all of that. They'll work with your insurance company and file it all for you and then send you the check in the mail, basically. They will reimburse you for those services. They handle all of that. Um, and I think that that's a great deal. If I had an insurance provider that provided out of network benefits, I would totally take advantage of that with Mentaya myself. Um, I would not want to go through the hassle of having to file all of that with the insurance company and figure out how to do that and send it all in. It's just not. I don't think that that's really the best case scenario. Some people they have the time and they understand how it works and it's really no big deal for them. But for most people, I think that's kind of like the worst of all worlds. Like, if you have to have your therapy paid for by insurance for whatever reason, um, then you should probably see a therapist who takes that insurance and not go that route of filing all of that. I just feel like you're paying directly out of pocket and not getting reimbursed probably for the whole thing, or maybe you are for the whole thing, but then you're also doing all this extra work. Anyway, all that to say, I'm not like um, trying to speak badly about people who do that or about if that's something that you want to do, you can go for it. I guess I'm just talking about me personally. I wouldn't want to go through all of that hassle. And so I'm really glad that there's a company out there like Mentaya that will do all of that for you. And what's their payment model? Well, they did just take 5% off of the top of your reimbursement. So if you would have gotten reimbursed $100, you'll get reimbursed $95 instead. Simple as that. And I think that for the vast majority of people out there who would take advantage of something like this, that's well worth it. So I'm happy to let you know about that too. I can work with Mentaya. So most insurance companies that are PPO plan provide out of network benefits. Not all of them do. If it's an HMO, they probably don't. If it is a government state sponsored insurance, such as a Medicare or Medicaid program of some kind, they also do not provide out of network benefits. And so pay would need to be out of pocket for you, just to kind of let you know. But if you're not sure, like for instance, if you have a PPO or even if you have an HMO, it's worth double checking and seeing if they provide out of network mental health benefits. And that can help. And especially if you do it through Mentaya, it's like not really any extra headache for you. So you may as well. Um, all right. One last thing I want to address. Okay. So when clients go to see therapists who don't accept insurance, like myself, and they think about the fact that they're going to be paying for therapy, they're like, "Oh no, that's crazy. I'm going to go to a therapist who accepts my insurance so that I don't have to pay for therapy." Now, I get that. Obviously, I like saving money as much as the next person. Okay, but understand that those therapists. And I'm not trying to speak badly about them either. There are therapists who take insurance who do fantastic work. A lot of them do. Okay, I want to let you know that. But it's harder for them to do excellent work. I have to be honest about that. If you were to ask them if you could do this same work and get paid directly by me and still see as many clients as you do and everything, would you do that? I bet that about 100% of them would say yes. They would not say, no, 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 I like working with insurance companies instead. Okay. So it's harder for them to do excellent work than it is for me to do excellent work. Um, and that's why I think you should prefer to work with a therapist who does not accept insurance if you can. Now, for some people, paying out of pocket is simply not at all within reach. Like they are, they may have no income, they may be homeless. I've spoken with people in these kinds of situations, and I don't push too hard to try to convince them that yes, you actually can afford therapy. If you don't have any income, then you should probably see somebody who accepts your insurance company or accepts your insurance. Uh, but um, a lot of people think that they can't afford it in the sense that it's available for cheaper elsewhere, but they actually very well could make it work. And if you want to kind of have the benefits of working with a therapist who doesn't provide insurance, one who has more balance in their life, theoretically, one who your sessions will be totally private and who works for you directly and who isn't having to kind of skew their words to appease the insurance companies and all that kind of stuff, then it may be well worth it to pay them directly to do that, to get all of those benefits for you and for them to support them in their work. If you think about the kinds of things that you pay money for, an example that I've heard before that I love is a wedding DJ. Right, a lot of wedding DJs uh, charge hundreds and hundreds of dollars, sometimes well over $1,000, sometimes thousands of dollars, probably in some cases. I know weddings can get crazy, but I would say between $1,000 and $2,000 is pretty common for somebody to play music for you at one day. Um, and obviously, a wedding is a very important day. It's an important event, not discounting that. But if you think about like the value of what you're paying for, and then that day is done and the music has been played and that cost you $1,200 or whatever, and then you think about the benefit that that therapy can provide for you, actually changing your life, actually helping you get control of your emotions and your thoughts and your behaviors, and helping your relationships, and helping your kids, and all of the doors that will open for you throughout the rest of your life, having that kind of stuff figured out and under control and being in a good place with your mental health. If you think about the immense benefit that therapy can offer, that I'm proud to be able to provide to my clients, then um, if a therapist charges $100 or $150 or even $300, I know that some therapists charge that much. Um, compared to a wedding DJ, that is a way better investment. Okay, so again, nothing against wedding DJs. I've been a wedding DJ before, believe it or not one who charges $1,200. But that's just one example. You think about the kinds of things that you spend money on in your daily life. Your car payment perhaps for a car that is way nicer than you need, or whatever. We all make choices with our finances based on what is important to us. And I would argue that your mental health should be extremely important to you. And so the amount of money that I charge and that a lot of private pay therapists charge is a very good investment by comparison. It's probably just a matter of deciding whether or not it's worth it to you, given all this information that I provided. So thanks for sticking with me. I hope that you found this interesting and helpful in some way. My number, if you want to call or text me to ask more about therapy or about anything that I shared about in this video, my number is 586-576-6523. You can email me at wes@gfcounseling.com. So new name, new website, gfcounseling.com, new email address. My phone number is the same as it has been. So I will link to my website as well, to that page about my insurance and my rates. And so you can read a summary of this and refer back to it. And I will see you in the next video or talk to you soon. Thanks.